The Deep Space Monitoring Station buzzed with its usual quiet activity. Screens flickered with data streams while tired officers watched their sectors with practiced ease. It was just another peaceful day for the Stellar Council's Defense Force, until it wasn't. Officer Green's antenna twitched as his screen showed something unusual. He blinked his large eyes twice, making sure he wasn't seeing things after his long shift. The reading was still there. Something big had just appeared at the edge of their space, and it wasn't using any known travel patterns. "Admiral Blue," he called out, his voice shaking slightly. "You need to see this." The Admiral walked over, his blue-scaled skin reflecting the soft light of the monitoring stations. He leaned forward, his four eyes narrowing as he studied the readings. The object was massive, nearly twice the size of their largest ships, but that wasn't what worried him. It was the energy signature, something he had never seen before in his 300 years of service. "Send out the standard greeting package," he ordered, keeping his voice steady despite his growing concern. The last thing he needed was to start a panic among his crew. They waited. 5 minutes passed, then 10. The unknown ship maintained its position, silent and mysterious. The grading package, which had worked with every known species in the galaxy, brought no response. "Sir," another officer called out, her voice high with worry. "The initial scans, they don't make sense. The ship's hull, it's made of materials we can't identify. And the weapon signatures." She trailed off, her hands trembling as she brought up the data on the main screen. Admiral Blue felt his heart skip a beat. The weapon systems they could detect seemed impossible. Energy readings suggested power levels that shouldn't exist in a ship that size. The design itself was strange, sleek and predatory, like nothing they had ever encountered. "Try all frequencies again," he ordered, "and alert the Council. We need tow." His words were cut short as new data flooded the screens. The unknown ship had activated something, and their sensors were going crazy. Half their scanning systems simply stopped working, while others showed contradictory readings, as if the ship was in multiple places at once. The Admiral's experience told him this was no malfunction. The vessel was deliberately interfering with their scans, showing capabilities far beyond anything the Stellar Council possessed. In all his years of service, he had never felt so helpless. "Launch observer drones," he commanded, fighting to keep his professional demeanor. "Maximum safe distance, and begin evacuating all civilian ships from this sector." The drones launched, their small forms speeding toward the mysterious vessel. As they got closer, the detailed images they sent back only increased the Admiral's worry. The ship's hull showed no signs of wear or repair, despite its obvious age. Strange markings covered its surface, symbols unlike any known language. But most disturbing were the weapon ports. Dozens of them, each sealed behind armor plates that their scans couldn't penetrate. "Sir," Officer Green spoke up again, his voice barely a whisper. "We're detecting internal movement in the ship. It's changing somehow." The main screen showed the vessel's transformation. Sections of the hull shifted and realigned. Weapon ports exposed themselves briefly before disappearing behind new configurations of armor. It was like watching a predator flexing its muscles, a casual display of power that sent chills through everyone in the command center. Admiral Blue made his decision. With movements that betrayed none of his inner turmoil, he activated the emergency protocols. Throughout nearby systems, alarm signals began to sound. Defense fleets were called to high alert. Civilian ships scrambled for safe harbor. The Stellar Council's entire defense network hummed to life, preparing for what could be first contact with the most advanced, and possibly dangerous, species they had ever encountered. As he watched the mysterious ship on the main screen, Admiral Blue couldn't shake the feeling that despite all their preparation, all their technology, all their supposed superiority, they were like children playing with toys compared to whoever had built that vessel. For the first time in his long career, he felt genuine fear about what the next few hours might bring. The Stellar Council was about to learn that they were not alone in their advancement through the stars. And perhaps, he thought grimly, they were not nearly as advanced as they had believed. Captain Stone stood at the bridge of the HMS Nemesis, his weathered face illuminated by the soft glow of holographic displays. He watched with quiet amusement as the alien fleet scrambled to respond to their presence. The bridge crew worked in practiced silence, their movements precise and efficient as they monitored the unfolding situation. "They're launching more scanning drones," reported Officer White from her station. Her fingers danced across the control surface, adjusting their stealth systems with minor corrections. "Shall we continue to feed them false readings, sir?" Stone nodded, a slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. The Nemesis Advanced Electronic Warfare Suite was doing its job perfectly, keeping the aliens guessing. Some scans showed them as bigger than they were, others smaller. Some revealed weapons that didn't exist, while hiding the ones that did. It was like playing chess with an opponent who couldn't even see the board properly. "Status of their fleet deployment?" he asked, moving to study the tactical display. Red dots representing alien vessels were appearing at the edge of their sensor range, forming what they probably thought was an effective containment pattern. Officer Black, the tactical officer, brought up detailed analysis of each approaching vessel. 27 ships now, sir. Their technology is interesting, advanced in some ways, primitive in others. Their weapons are energy-based, but nothing our shields can't handle. No sign they've developed quantum shielding or dark matter tech." Stone nodded again. This was why humanity had chosen to reveal themselves this way. After observing the Stellar Council for months, they had confirmed their suspicions. These aliens, for all their apparent advancement, had developed along very different technological paths than humans had. The captain walked to the front viewport, hands clasped behind his back. The Nemesis's hull shifted slightly, adaptive armor plates realigning themselves in response to the alien scan attempts. The movement was smooth, almost organic, a display of technology that had taken humanity decades to perfect. "They're broadcasting again," announced Officer Red from Communications. "Same first contact package as before. Language databases, cultural information, scientific data." She paused, checking new readings. "Sir, they've added what appears to be a military capability summary. They're trying to warn us off." Quiet chuckles rippled through the bridge. The alien fleet's most powerful weapons wouldn't even scratch the Nemesis's outer armor layer. Humanity had learned the hard way, through centuries of warfare among themselves, how to build ships that could survive almost anything. Peace had come to Earth eventually, but not before they had mastered the art of war. "Show me their fleet formation," Stone ordered. The tactical display zoomed out, showing the growing number of alien vessels attempting to surround them. Their pattern had holes in it, amateur mistakes that any first-year cadet would spot. These aliens, it seemed, had enjoyed peace for too long. A soft alarm chimed. "Energy spike from one of their vessels," Black reported calmly. "Looks like a nervous trigger finger, sir. Minor weapon discharge, heading our way." Stone didn't even need to give an order. The Nemesis defensive systems activated automatically. A brief flash of light, barely visible, and the incoming fire simply ceased to exist. The ship's quantum point defense grid had broken down the energy weapons coherence before it got within 1,000 kilometers. "No damage, no shield drain," Black confirmed. "Should we power up our own weapons, sir? Give them something to really worry about?" The captain shook his head. "No need. Let them see how easily we dealt with their shot. Sometimes the best demonstration of power is showing how little effort it takes to defend against their best weapons." He turned to face his crew, his expression serious despite the relative ease of their situation. "Remember, we're not here to start a war. We're here to prevent one. Humanity has learned that the best way to maintain peace is to make war unthinkable." The bridge crew nodded in understanding. They had all studied Earth's history, learned how close humanity had come to destroying itself before finally finding unity. Now they were here, making first contact with an alien civilization, carrying that hard-earned wisdom with them. Stone returned to studying the tactical display. The alien fleet was still growing, still trying to look threatening. Let them come, he thought. Let them bring their entire fleet. The more ships they gathered, the more impressive it would be when the Nemesis finally revealed its true purpose. Not to fight, but to teach a lesson about the true meaning of technological superiority. Commander Gray paced the bridge of his flagship, the Pride of Stars, as more ships arrived through jump points. 50 vessels now surrounded the mysterious human ship, the largest fleet gathering in Stellar Council history. His tail twitched nervously as he watched the tactical display, showing their ever-tightening circle around the intruder. "Energy readings make no sense," muttered lead scientist Brown, her 4 arms moving rapidly across multiple control panels. "The ship's power core. It's like looking into a star that's somehow been tamed. And these material readings." She shook her head in frustration. "Everything we know about physics says this ship shouldn't exist." The commander stopped his pacing to study the main screen. The human vessel hung there, dark and threatening, occasionally shifting its whole configuration like some great beast flexing its muscles. Their earlier weapon test had been swatted away as if it were nothing more than an annoying insect. "What about the crew?" he asked. "Can we at least get life sign readings?" Brown adjusted her sensors again. Impossible to get accurate numbers. "They're stealth systems." She paused, checking readings again. "Wait. New data coming in. The ship's internal structure. It's changing again." Everyone on the bridge watched as new sensor data streamed in. Inside the human vessel, entire sections were moving, rearranging themselves like pieces of a living puzzle. Rooms changed shape, corridors redirected, and weapon systems shifted positions. The entire ship was a masterpiece of adaptive engineering. "By the stars," whispered Brown. "Their technology isn't just advanced, it's evolved. They've mastered principles we haven't even discovered yet." A junior officer rushed onto the bridge, holding a data tablet. "Commander, analysis from the Science Council just arrived. They've been studying the weapon that was neutralized." He handed the tablet to Gray, hands shaking slightly. Gray read the report, his skin paling to a lighter shade of green. The human ship hadn't just stopped their test shot. It had completely broken down the energy beam at a quantum level. Such defensive capability was thought to be theoretically impossible. "New movement," called out the sensor officer. "The human ship is, sir, it's launching something." Dozens of small objects emerged from the vessel's hull, spreading out in a perfect geometric pattern. Each one was barely larger than a personal transport pod, but the energy readings from them were off the charts. "Defense satellites," Brown announced, studying the data. "But like nothing we've ever seen. They're generating some kind of field." Her voice trailed off as new information appeared on her screen. "Commander, these devices, they're creating localized space-time distortions. They could literally tear our ships apart if we try to get too close." Gray felt a cold weight in his stomach. With a few dozen automated platforms, the human ship had just turned their entire containment strategy into a death trap. If they tried to close in, their own ships would be torn apart by artificial gravity wells. "Sir," called another officer, message from Admiral Blue. "The Council, they're frightened. Some members are calling for an immediate attack with everything we have. They think if we wait any longer, it would be suicide." Gray cut him off. "Look at what they've already shown us. Their defenses are impenetrable. Their technology breaks our understanding of physics. And they've done all this without showing a single offensive weapon." He turned to address his entire bridge crew. "Don't you see? They're not preparing for battle. They're preventing one." A heavy silence fell over the bridge as his words sank in. The human ship had masterfully controlled every aspect of this encounter. They had demonstrated power while showing restraint, revealed capability while maintaining mystery, and established complete tactical superiority without firing a single shot. "Send word to the Council," Gray ordered, his voice firm with newfound understanding. "Tell them any aggressive action would be a mistake. This situation requires diplomacy, not warfare." He looked back at the main screen, where the human vessel continued its silent vigil. We're not dealing with barbarians or conquerors. We're dealing with a species that has mastered the art of peace through overwhelming strength. As if to emphasize his point, the defense satellites adjusted their positions slightly, creating an even more complex web of gravitational control zones. The message was clear. The humans could have destroyed them at any time, but they chose not to. They were waiting for the Stellar Council to understand that simple truth. The tension in space could be cut with a knife. Despite Commander Gray's warning, 3 ships from the outer defense ring broke formation. Their captains, young and eager to prove themselves, had decided to take matters into their own hands. Their weapons powered up, energy building to dangerous levels. On the bridge of the HMS Nemesis, Captain Stone watched the situation unfold with calm interest. "Time to show them what we can really do," he said quietly. "Defensive systems at 20% power. Let's give them a proper demonstration." The 3 alien vessels fired together, their energy weapons lighting up space with brilliant beams of destructive force. They aimed at different parts of the Nemesis, hoping to overwhelm its defenses. The human crew didn't even flinch. What happened next would be talked about in Stellar Council space for generations to come. The Nemesis's outer hull rippled like water, the adaptive armor flowing and shifting. As the energy beams approached, small points of light appeared around the ship. Each point expanded into a miniature black hole, capturing the incoming fire and converting it into harmless radiation. But the Nemesis wasn't finished. The absorbed energy was redirected through its quantum matrix, emerging as a beautiful display of colored lights that danced around the ship like an aurora. The demonstration was both terrifying and breathtaking, showing that humanity could turn their deadliest weapons into a light show. Energy absorption complete, Officer Black reported with a slight smile. Shield strength actually increased by 0.3%. Their weapons literally made us stronger. In the Stellar Council fleet, panic began to spread. The 3 attacking ships tried to retreat, their engines straining at maximum power, but they found themselves held in place by invisible forces. The Nemesis's gravitational control field had them locked in position. "They're powering up their secondary weapons," Officer White announced. "Shall we let them fire again, sir?" Captain Stone shook his head. "I think one demonstration is enough. Activate the null field." A wave of invisible energy pulsed out from the Nemesis. As it passed over the 3 trapped ships, their weapon systems simply shut down. Not damaged or destroyed, just turned off as easily as flicking a switch. The alien vessels hung in space, helpless but unharmed. Admiral Blue watched in horror from his command ship as the human vessel demonstrated technology that shouldn't exist. "Get me a channel to that ship," he ordered. "Now." Before his communications officer could act, every screen in the alien fleet lit up with a simple message, transmitted in perfect council standard. "The demonstration is complete. We trust our capabilities are now understood. Shall we discuss peace?" The message was followed by detailed scans of the 3 disabled ships, showing they were completely undamaged. Their weapons were intact, just temporarily deactivated. It was a clear message. The humans could have destroyed them at any time, but chose not to harm a single person. Commander Gray studied the scans with growing amazement. The human ship had defended itself, disabled 3 attackers, and proved its technological superiority, all while using less power than a civilian transport would need for basic operations. Their energy efficiency was as impressive as their military capability. On the Nemesis's bridge, Captain Stone turned to his crew. "Release the holding field. Restore power to their ships." He paused, then added with a slight smile, "and power down our defense grid to minimum. Let's show them we're ready to talk." The 3 alien vessels found themselves free to move again, their systems coming back online one by one. They retreated to their fleet in shame, but also in wonder. They had just witnessed something unprecedented. A ship that could have annihilated them chose instead to teach them a lesson in the gentlest way possible. Admiral Blue straightened his uniform and took a deep breath. The Council's initial fear had been proven both right and wrong. Yes, the humans possessed terrifying military power, but they also showed remarkable restraint and wisdom in its use. Perhaps, he thought, this was why they had survived long enough to develop such technology. They had learned when not to use it. "Prepare my shuttle," he announced to his staff, "and send word to the Council. Tell them," he paused, choosing his words carefully, "tell them we've just met a species that has mastered not just the technology of war, but the art of peace through strength." The tension in the command center shifted from fear to anticipation as Captain Stone's face appeared on the main screen. The human looked remarkably similar to many Council species. 2 eyes, symmetrical features, though his skin was a shade they hadn't seen before. He wore a dark uniform with simple markings of rank, and his expression was calm but alert. "Greetings, Stellar Council Fleet," he said, his words automatically translated by both sides' communication systems. "I am Captain Stone of the Earth ship Nemesis. We apologize for any alarm our arrival may have caused. It was necessary to ensure a clear understanding of our relative capabilities before opening diplomatic channels." Admiral Blue stepped forward, his translator working to convert his complex tonal language into human speech. "Your demonstration was most impressive, Captain. Though I must ask, why choose such a dramatic method of first contact?" The human captain's lips curved slightly upward. "History has taught us that misunderstandings between cultures often lead to conflict. We chose to demonstrate our capabilities openly, so there would be no doubts or miscalculations about our level of technology. It prevents unfortunate incidents." On the bridge of the Pride of Stars, Commander Gray watched the exchange with growing interest. The humans' words carried weight beyond their simple meaning. They had revealed their strength not to threaten, but to prevent threats from arising in the first place. "Your ship," Lead Scientist Brown spoke up, unable to contain her curiosity. "The technology it displays, it defies our understanding of physics. How did your species advance so far without being detected by our long-range surveys?" Captain Stone's expression remained neutral, but his eyes showed a hint of amusement. "We've been observing the Council for some time, studying your technological development. Our stealth systems are quite effective. We wanted to understand your culture before making ourselves known." The implications of this statement sent ripples of unease through the alien fleet. How many other human ships might be out there, watching, undetected? The Nemesis might not be unique. It might just be the first one they were allowed to see. "What are your intentions?" Admiral Blue asked directly. "You've demonstrated power beyond our comprehension, yet you speak of peace and diplomacy." "Humanity has a saying," Stone replied. "The best sword is the one that never needs to be drawn." We developed our technology through centuries of conflict among ourselves. When we finally achieved peace, we vowed to prevent such destruction from happening on an interstellar scale. He paused, letting his words sink in. "We come seeking trade, cultural exchange, and mutual understanding. The Nemesis and her capabilities are simply our way of ensuring that any relationship we build starts from a position of clear understanding. No false assumptions, no costly mistakes." The Admiral nodded slowly, beginning to understand. The humans weren't showing off. They were being brutally honest about their capabilities from the start. It was, in its own way, a gesture of respect. "Your ship's defense systems," Commander Gray spoke up. "You could have destroyed our vessels, yet you chose to disable them temporarily, without causing harm. Why?" Stone's expression softened slightly. "Because that's not who we are anymore. Humanity has learned that true strength lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to know when not to. We could have arrived in secret, or with a fleet of our own. Instead, we chose to be open about our capabilities while demonstrating our restraint." A moment of silence followed as the Council leaders processed this. The human ship had shown them technology that made their best weapons look like children's toys, yet its captain spoke of peace and wisdom. It was both reassuring and terrifying. Then perhaps, Admiral Blue said carefully. We should begin formal diplomatic discussions. Though I must admit, your method of introducing yourselves will not soon be forgotten. That was our intent, Stone replied with a slight smile. Sometimes the best way to ensure peaceful relations is to make it clear that war would be inefficient. He gestured to someone off-screen, and the Nemesis defense satellites began moving back toward the ship. Now shall we discuss the future? Throughout the alien fleet, crews watched in amazement as the human ship's aggressive posture relaxed, its hull configurations shifting to a more peaceful stance. They had just witnessed something unprecedented, a first contact that had turned from potential conflict to diplomatic negotiations through a carefully choreographed display of both power and restraint. The neutral station hung in space between the HMS Nemesis and the Stellar Council fleet. It was an old trading post, chosen for its simple layout and equal distance between both parties. Inside, final preparations were being made for the first face-to-face meeting between humans and the Council leadership. Admiral Blue waited in the station's main conference room, accompanied by Commander Gray and lead scientist Brown. Their security teams had swept the area 3 times, though they all knew such precautions were probably pointless against human technology. The air felt heavy with anticipation. The door slid open, and Captain Stone entered with 2 officers. The humans wore their regular uniforms, carrying no visible weapons. They moved with a confident grace that spoke of careful training, their eyes taking in every detail of the room and its occupants. "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting," Stone said, taking his seat across from the Admiral. "I believe face-to-face discussions build trust better than video communications." Brown couldn't help but stare at the humans. Their physical similarity to several Council species was remarkable, yet there were subtle differences that hinted at their unique evolution. "Your species," she said, "you look so much like us, yet your technology follows paths we never imagined possible." Stone nodded. "We've noticed the same similarities. It's one reason we chose to make contact now. Our scientists believe we share common ancestral origins, though our development took very different paths." "Your weapons," Commander Gray spoke up, unable to contain his curiosity. "The way your ship absorbed our energy weapons and turned them into harmless light. How is that possible?" The human captain's expression grew serious. "What you saw wasn't a weapon system. The Nemesis was built primarily as a defensive vessel. Everything you witnessed was designed to protect and disable, not destroy." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Humanity learned the hard way that the most advanced weapons are those that prevent war rather than wage it." Admiral Blue leaned forward. "You keep referring to lessons learned. What exactly happened on your world that led to such technological advancement?" The room grew quiet as Stone gathered his thoughts. Earth's history is filled with conflict. Nations fought nations. Ideologies clashed. We nearly destroyed ourselves more than once, but each war pushed our technology forward, forced us to innovate. His eyes met the Admiral's. "The peace we eventually achieved came at a terrible cost, but it taught us invaluable lessons about power and responsibility. And now you bring these lessons to us," Gray observed, "though your method of delivery was rather dramatic." A small smile crossed Stone's face. "We studied your Council's history. You achieved unity early in your development. It's admirable, but it also meant you never faced the challenges that drove our technological evolution. We had to make sure you understood exactly what humanity represents." Brown's scientific curiosity got the better of her. The Nemesis' adaptive hull, the quantum defense grid, the gravity manipulation. These technologies could revolutionize our understanding of physics. Will you share this knowledge? "Some of it," Stone replied. "We're prepared to engage in technological exchange, but gradually. Certain advances need to be earned, not given. It's important that knowledge and wisdom develop together." The Admiral nodded slowly, beginning to understand. "You're not just making first contact. You're offering to guide us toward a new level of advancement." "In a way," Stone agreed. "But we're also here to learn from you. Your species achieved peaceful cooperation far earlier than we did. That's a different kind of advancement, one humanity could benefit from studying. The tension in the room had completely dissolved, replaced by a sense of mutual respect and curiosity. These humans, for all their terrifying technology, weren't conquerors or oppressors. They were teachers, guardians, and potentially friends. I believe, Admiral Blue said, that the Council will be very interested in establishing formal diplomatic relations with Earth, though I suspect your ship will remain a topic of discussion for quite some time. Stone's smile widened slightly. The Nemesis served her purpose. She showed you what humanity is capable of, both technologically and ethically. Now we can move forward as equals, each bringing our own strengths to this relationship. As the meeting continued, both sides began to realize that this first contact, despite its unusual beginning, might have been the best possible outcome. The humans had the power to dominate but chose to protect. They had the technology to destroy but used it to preserve. They had learned from their violent past to create a better future, one they were now offering to share with the Stellar Council. 5 years had passed since the day the HMS Nemesis appeared in Council space. The great warship now rested in a special dock near the Council's central station, transformed into a museum and diplomatic center. Its dark hull still shifted and moved occasionally, as if reminding everyone of its power, but now it served as a symbol of peace rather than fear. On the observation deck of the central station, Admiral Blue stood with Captain Stone, watching alien and human children play together in the station's recreation area. The young ones were playing with toy versions of the Nemesis, acting out stories of the famous first contact. But in their games, the ship wasn't a terrifying weapon. It was a protector, a guardian of peace. Strange how things change, Blue remarked, his translator perfectly conveying his amused tone. 5 years ago, that ship sent our entire fleet into panic. Now our children sleep better knowing it's watching over our space. Stone nodded, watching as a small alien child carefully explained to her human friend how the toy ship's adaptive hull worked. The technical details weren't quite right, but the spirit of wonder was there. The Council's technological progress has been remarkable, Stone said. Your scientists took our basic teachings and developed them in ways we never considered. The new medical applications of our quantum field technology, for instance, we never thought to use it that way. Below them, in the station's main plaza, humans and aliens moved together in a busy crowd. Council engineers worked alongside human technicians, learning from each other. The humans provided advanced technological knowledge, while the Council species shared their expertise in biological sciences and cultural cooperation. The defense grid you helped us build, Blue said, it's changed everything. Our outer colonies sleep peacefully now, knowing they're protected by human design shields. Though I notice you still keep some secrets. His tone was light, curious rather than accusatory. Stone smiled. Some technologies need time. Your people are advancing at the perfect pace, fast enough to grow, but slow enough to understand the responsibilities that come with each new discovery. He gestured to a passing ship through the viewport, its hull showing the distinctive ripple of adaptive armor. 5 years ago, that technology was unique to the Nemesis. Now it's standard on every Council flagship. In the diplomatic quarter, Commander Gray, now Ambassador Gray, was leading a mixed group of human and alien officials on a tour of the Nemesis Museum. The ship's bridge had been preserved exactly as it was on that first day, though now it was filled with educational displays explaining the basics of human technology. The most common question I get, Gray was saying to his group, is why the humans chose to reveal themselves the way they did. But standing here, seeing this ship's capabilities, I understand. They didn't want to risk any misunderstandings that could lead to conflict. Lead scientist Brown, who had become the head of the new Human Council Joint Technology Institute, was in her lab nearby. She worked with a team of mixed species, studying the principles behind human technology, while teaching them about the Council's biological engineering advances. The exchange of knowledge had led to breakthroughs that neither civilization could have achieved alone. "Look there," Blue said, pointing to a new ship under construction in the distance. It was massive, larger even than the Nemesis, but its design combined both human and council aesthetics. The first true joint project between our peoples. A vessel of exploration, not war, but built with all the protective capabilities of human technology. Stone watched the construction with satisfaction. That's what the Nemesis was really about. Not showing our strength, but showing how strength can be used to protect, to build, to grow. He turned to his alien friend. "Your people taught us as much as we taught you. We showed you advanced technology, but you showed us how to build trust between different species." As night fell over the station, the Nemesis's hull caught the light of nearby stars, its adaptive plates shifting in a gentle wave pattern that children found mesmerizing. The ship that had once terrified an entire civilization now stood as a monument to the moment when two cultures chose understanding over fear, progress over conflict. In schools across council space, young students learned about the day the humans arrived. But they didn't learn about it as a story of intimidation or show of force. Instead, they learned it as the day two civilizations realized that true strength lies not in the ability to win wars, but in the wisdom to prevent them. The Nemesis, once seen as a harbinger of doom, had become a symbol of hope, protection, and the promise of a peaceful future built on mutual respect and shared knowledge.